Welcome. I'm calling this Board of Election meeting to order. Everyone has seen or they should have seen the minutes for January 27th, the open and the closed. Are there any corrections? Okay, seeing none, I need someone to make a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll do
make
that.
a motion to accept the minutes.
Okay, I'll second that.
Okay, Mary Louise, what'd I say?
Approve.
Makes the motion and
Oh.
Sue seconds it. Okay.
Okay.
So let's vote. All in favor of approving the minutes for January 27th, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, say nay. And the motion has been passed. Okay, reports from board members. Anybody? Seeing none, let's go to new business. Shannon, you want to talk about voting by mail?
Yes. So yesterday I attended another virtual election forum. So during the forum this time around was primarily just about the vote by mail. So during it, I did learn that the company Electech that we currently use actually does the vote by mail as well. That's a vendor that we can consider. They are, I'm trying to think. So I didn't get a price or anything because it really just depends on each municipality. So no one could really share an amount. I do know it can be very expensive. So from what I gathered from everyone, the other thing that I learned was, so basically what they do with the vote by mail is they actually take all the registered voters and they will mail out a ballot ahead of time to all voters. And then they can, from there, decide if they would like to vote by mail or actually come in on election day. When we get the vote by mail in is when we mark that they've already voted. So we don't actually open the ballots up yet until a designated time, which could be on the actual election day, or it could be a designated day that we choose. Like one of the municipalities chose a designated, forget exactly how he titled it, but it was like a designated drop-off ballot day is what they did. And it was a little bit before the election, which I'm going to double check with them on that about if we decided to do this or wanted to look into it more. But it sounded like basically what they did is they designated a day. It was prior to the election. That way they weren't bombarded on the election day itself. And they did the counts then. And of course, what they did was they closed it off like you would do on an actual election day. They closed it off by 8 o'clock at night. And then they did all the counts. There was lots of feedback on how everyone also organized it, because what can also happen with vote by mail is, and a lot of the first timers, like one of them ended up being in all night counting. That was him and I think some of his board members and I forget who else. They were actually in like the whole day or the whole night till the next morning counting because they received so many votes, which was exceeded more than they ever received before, because people had the opportunity to vote and not have to worry about going out. So he said they exceeded, I forget, I can't remember how much they used to get. And at this point they had received like 1,900 votes. So wow. He said they were in all night. So obviously he learned from that and they know a better way of how to organize it. And they came up with other ideas. So I got lots of ideas from that. Also, and actually some of the ideas that were presented was really good too, because some of the other municipalities actually incorporated, for those who encourage more of the absentee ballots, they actually use this organization system for their absentee ballots as well, because they received a more increased amount of absentee ballots. So it helped them to organize better since they did receive a more increased amount as they came in. So it was really interesting to hear everyone's feedback on that. And we could definitely explore more on that so that way we can figure out what might be best for us. So let me see. I'm going down through my list here, see what else I need to cover. So is it definitely, I mean, everyone said it's definitely an increase in cost because what you're doing is, so like Electech as our vendor, just as an example, if we did use them, what they would do is they would take the ballots. We would provide them with the list, with the voter registration list. And they actually do the mailing. They do the ballots, of course, like they do for us anyways, with the absentees and all of that. So they provide all of that, but you have to consider like the postage costs, you know what I mean? So there's a lot associated with it. And you're mailing out to all voters, not just people who are saying, I want this. It's all voters. So some did, I'm trying to remember how some of them did ones who, I'm trying to remember how exactly to divide it up. Some of them did every single person that were registered. Some of them did not include the inactive people, only did active voters. So different municipalities did different things and handle that differently. Now the one that did not include the inactive in their mail out. They also have a much bigger city. So they have a lot more people than what we do and what this other municipality did, who did all inactive and active voters.
So this company would do everything except the counting, right?
Now, I believe, and I can double check on this, I believe they come in on the day, like if we designate a day to count ballots a little early just for the mail-in ballots, I believe they will have someone come out to assist us. It's kind of like what they do on election night when they actually stand there and they will assist to make sure that we're, you know, okay with getting everything in. But I'm not 100% sure on that. That I'll have to double check on. So a little confused in that area.
I bet this is very expensive. I mean,
Yeah.
is the city willing to pay for this?
Well, that I would have to inquire because, well, first what I would do is I would email Electech. I do have a contact person there. And I would just ask them for a quote, see how much it would be. Now she'd probably have to know how many registered voters we have. So I would double check with the county on that just to be sure. And then I could get a quote and then I could see if we can make it work. So, you know, it's definitely an option. Even if we don't do it this time, we could certainly consider it for the future, you know, and then budget for it, you know. So it's certainly something we could bring forward, even if we don't do it this time. We could certainly consider it in the future if anyone seems interested. Let's see here.
Probably get a lot more people to vote if they can just mail it in.
Well, and I was thinking that, and if we did the newsletters where it informed people anyways, I mean, I feel like no matter what, our absentee ballots are probably going to be higher this year too, you know, just for the requests, because we're still making it as easy as we can on everyone without having everyone having to come out and interact. Also with the mail-in or the vote by mail, they do have the option to mail it in, or the purpose of the designated day is so they can still have time to drop it off before the cutoff time. So they can do it in person and hand it in and put it into a ballot box, or they can still mail it in. So it would be kind of like the absentee ballots where we just have a cutoff time as far as what would happen.
I think another thing to consider is the fact that the Postal Service has been really unreliable lately. Is it going to be better by May? Suppose a whole bunch of them come in after the election. What do we do with
Right.
that?
So
That's-
I am going to, so we kind of touched on that again, where people are actually contacting their postal service and talking to, their postal service and connecting with
Mhm.
somebody. So I do want to check more into that as well, about maybe possibly picking them up myself from the post office, to see what options they have. We did discuss that a little bit more yesterday as well. They also talked about ballot boxes. So one of the municipalities was actually able to connect with their postal service, and they had an old like mailbox type of thing, where they were able to provide the city. They actually donated it to the city, and then what they did was is they painted over it, so of course didn't say the postal service, and they made it their
Mhm.
ballot box, and then
Like a
had
Dropbox.
yeah, and then they had their public works department then bolt it into the cemented pavement, and they put surveillance on it to make sure no one hacked with the ballot box.
Oh, boy.
So a little bit more of that was talked about too, and of course then they have the lock and they have control of who gets in that ballot box.
Mm.
So
Do they take it away afterwards? Do they
um,
put it back inside?
I don't
I mean,
believe.
what if there's something like thrown in there afterwards, or a later ballot or something?
Yeah, I don't know. That would have to figure out. So, but it was a neat idea. So I thought, it wouldn't hurt to ask if our local post office has anything like that. That they have boxes they don't use anymore, and we could maybe use it. So it was just a thought, that I figured doesn't hurt.
Did
We
you
used
Yeah.
to
talk
lock
to
it
Carol?
afterwards, and nobody could put anything else in there after. Just keep it locked
Right.
when it's not in use.
Yeah. Yeah. So we can figure that out. I mean, that's kind of a little bit down the road yet. So we'll definitely figure that out.
Boy.
So you're saying election day, there would be a box where they could put the ballot in, or they could go to the machine? It'd be both?
No, there will
Or
not
no
be,
machine?
no machine, not until election day itself.
That's what I meant. I thought you were
Oh,
saying
I'm
election
sorry.
day, they could bring it and put it in some kind of box, or they could go to the machine?
Yes. Yes.
Well, could we at the polls be sure that they didn't drop something in the Dropbox and come in to vote?
So
Right.
I would
How
definitely
can we
have to figure
verify
out,
that?
right. I would have to figure out something on election day
Wow.
to
I
make
can't believe
sure.
it's coming to this.
Yeah.
Well, too,
Huh.
maybe they could give it to one of us. We could be there and we could have the list and we could look and see. Well, you wouldn't know if they already voted the other one, though, would you?
Well, but they can't because they're designated polling places.
No, I mean, you can't tell if they've already put a ballot in. No, they only have one ballot, so they couldn't put one in the mailbox and bring one in. Okay.
Right. Sorry, I misunderstood. Yeah, so, and the other thing is too, is maybe we don't allow the ballot box on election day. They have to actually physically either hand it to me at our building, and I would then contact one of you immediately. Or they have to go straight over to the polling place and hand it off to one of you.
Mm.
So, I mean,
And like
Oh, boy.
that's
that
a
could be-
follow-up question I can ask my fellow clerks. So,
Yeah,
of how they handle that.
I could see problems with this.
Mhm.
Yeah, because it's not like with the general election where if they've turned it in, it's on the screen that says they already have the absentee ballot, and then prevents them from voting again. But this way, when we don't have those screens and that way of voting, there could be lots of problems, I think.
Yeah. Well, and some of them are doing it's called a poll book, and it's all electronic now.
Mhm.
But that's something else that, we could definitely, Electech provides that as well. So I could certainly ask for a quote from them. That wouldn't be something we could do yet this year because it's, it'd be tight, and I have to work with Carroll County on that because so someone actually showed us, it's just like this little card thing that they have that they just slide into one of the computers and then it generates everything. It sounds really easy, and it was really interesting. Everyone raved about it who have done it. Many people have not done it yet, but I think after yesterday's meeting, people are going to start checking into it a little bit more.
That's probably just like we do for the general and primary election.
Right. It probably is. So, yeah, so I was going to talk to the county a little bit about it too. And maybe the county has something they could offer us that's Electech doesn't have to do. I don't know.
Right, maybe we can borrow it.
Yeah, we could certainly look into quotes and do all of that just to prepare for the next election. So we could certainly do that.
Well, a thought that's gone through my mind is that everybody on the voting books gets a mail-in ballot.
Mhm.
Why do we even need to be at the polls? You know,
Yeah, because you still, it's like we discussed yesterday, they still have people that would prefer to come in and vote in
Yeah.
person.
I know.
But
Yeah.
there are,
To be, what'd you
I mean,
say?
I'm sorry, no.
No, go ahead.
I was gonna say, to your point, Susan, I mean, there are places that now do mail only. I mean, there's a few
There
states
is.
that,
Well, that's what I was thinking. Yeah.
and that, I suppose the advantage of that is it eliminates some of these problems of, duplication.
Mhm.
Or, trying to figure out on the spot if somebody's, properly registered or not.
Right.
But I think you'll have a lot of people upset if you do that.
Yeah, that would be a big change.
There's some people, it means a lot to them to come to our polling places.
Yeah.
Right.
There are definitely voters, and I can't
Mhm.
see taking that away completely. I really do think it would upset some people.
Well, maybe we could just stick with the absentee ballots and not do all this mail-in stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, and then it would give me time too to learn a little bit more about it, just to make sure that we do handle it correctly on our
Right.
end. I mean, obviously, Electech, they have it nailed down to how they do it, but once it comes to us, is where we have to worry about. And I just want to make sure we're doing it absolutely, positively, correctly. And this
Right.
gives more opportunity for other municipalities to do it. And then because they did talk yesterday that they're going to try to have some more classes and like provide some more things on this as everyone experiences it, especially through this year.
Mhm.
So we could, as for, as little, unfortunately, for as little voters as we do get, we could, just try to, like what we talked about last time, just push more of the absentee ballots.
Mhm.
Is there a way to simplify the process so that people could apply online? In other words, one of the problems is, right, they have to get the form, fill out their form, return the form. Is there a web-based way of doing this where people could simply?
Yeah, so I never visited the fact of doing the electronic form. But we can, I mean, we do it for special events and things like that. So I'm sure I can do that.
I'm wondering if that's rather than sending the cost of sending everyone a ballot, there
Correct.
might be, the intermediate step, while the city council decides if they want to do that in the future, might be to make the absentee really simple.
So you mean the ballot itself?
No, I'm sorry. I meant the application.
Oh, right. Yeah, the application is very straightforward. So yeah, we could do that electronically. I don't see why
But we have to let's see, you just have to verify.
I have to
but that
verify
would-
their
right.
address, right? They
Yeah.
can provide things for me to verify.
Right.
Yeah, let me look into that. I'm having a mind blank right now. Yeah, there's a number of ways I can check on that just to make sure it's valid.
Okay.
It is a good idea.
Someone trying to pretend they're someone else, because I mean I get them in the mail anyways a lot of times. So as long as they provide me with all the information, then when I have the ballot books, I can, or the registration books, I can just go through and I always double check anyways. I check the address, I check the name, I check everything possible to make sure it's the correct person.
Mhm.
Because that could go on the city website, the water bills, the Facebook page. I mean,
Absolutely.
you know, and that, you know, might, I do, I was sitting there thinking before you said it took all night to do 1,900 ballots. So that kind of scared me a little bit.
Scared me. I was like, what?
Well, you know, I would say what we would probably, well, it sounded like there were only two. We'd probably have to have all the election judges.
Right.
But would we be allowed? I don't know how I don't know how the city council would feel about it, especially if they're up for election. But would we be allowed to say do all the absentees on a different day? You know, the election is Tuesday, and or depending on people's work schedule, Saturday if we had to. But pick another designated day. We bring all the judges in. We open. We sort. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know if that is allowed under our code, or if I could see how people running for office, that might make them a little antsy because they want to know the results, but.
Right.
But we could do it the day before the election
Right.
instead of
Yeah.
after.
Right.
Good, yeah.
Or you could say though, what if it's an emergency? What if they need to drop it off the day of? Like, I don't know, they're
Right.
sick or something and they can't go in, but well, you
So we'll
know.
have to make an exception.
That would be few, probably.
But I
Yeah,
mean, if they call Shannon and talk about that, then at least she would know, okay, well, we discussed that one, so that one is okay because it's an emergency situation or something.
Shannon,
But
do you know how many absentee ballots we had last time?
It was only like 12.
Yeah, I think it was, so I
So
remember.
few.
Yeah.
It was very, very few.
Yeah,
Now during the previous 2017 election, I think we had 23, which is still isn't a lot. It was
even
a lot
that.
last year.
Mhm.
Right.
But if we had mail-in ballots, then that's a different story.
Correct.
Is there any way that we could somehow say you can get an absentee ballot if you feel really uncomfortable coming to the polling place?
Hmm.
Can that be one of the so-called choices? So it's really a mail-in ballot, but it's an
Right. That's
absentee.
the thing. It kind of serves at it. And if we amend the agenda, I'm sorry. Jeez, Pete's. If we amend the code to say that we're cutting off the
Absentee.
being able to apply for the absentee ballot the Monday prior to the election day by 4:30, then someone could certainly come in that Monday prior to the election day. I would
You
certainly
mean the day
not,
before? The day
Right.
before, you mean? Yeah.
yes. So I would definitely not move it to the election day itself because that could cause some real confusion.
Yeah.
When someone comes into the office and requests it, what I've always done is gone right over to the book, the registration book, or the ballot book, and I have actually then I can go through and I can make sure it's them and the whole 9 yards. And if I need to check their driver's license to confirm, I can. So I can do all that right there when they come in. Now, of course, with us, if we're still close to the public, I may have to handle that a little differently, but I'll just address that when that time comes. It might just be for them standing in the lobby while I go and take care of that. But I mean, yeah, then I can hand them their ballot right then, and they just have to make sure it's turned in before the polling place is closed.
I sure hope we're opened up by then.
Yeah, well, and of course, when someone comes in and they request an absentee ballot, I automatically, I mark it anyways that they got an absentee ballot. So, there is that too, that, we do mark it right away. So we always know that way that, that they definitely got an absentee ballot.
A lot to think about.
So then it would just be, and then, well, and I kind of forgot about this. I do keep an Excel spreadsheet too. So I keep the Excel spreadsheet, I keep their names in it. And then I mark off, I put the date in. If I do mail it out, I put the date in. If somebody comes in and gets it, I put in how they received it. I also put in, when they mail it back in, I put in when, the date that we received it. And I also make sure they're stamped. with the received date.
Good.
Yeah, sorry, I completely just remembered that. It's all coming back.
Yeah, that's good. You double check, triple checking.
I do. I absolutely do, because I don't want to miss anything. So, yeah. So that's exactly what I do. Is I go
Good.
through and I do all of that.
Right.
So like some of them, what they did was they did when they mailed out their ballots, is also, and also for the vote by mail, is they made actual like stickies that were put on and made sure, like, because Electech did all the mail outs, they requested these envelopes be made. And what they did was they numbered them so that way they had the numbers on there of who that voter was.
Mhm,
Because
good.
of course you can't open the envelope. So then that way they knew who that voter was just by the number that they provided. And then they marked it off like, okay, well, we received this. And then that way on election day, all they have to do is go down and see that as well.
Mhm. Well, they're checking and you're checking too, so that's good.
Correct. Yeah.
Here's an odd question. Oh, actually, are you presenting more, Shannon?
No, I'm done.
So a question for us is, when do we need to make a decision by? I mean, the optimist in me thinks, you know, the COVID rate is plummeting at the moment. We're up to 10% who are vaccinated.
Yeah.
Is it possible that May, this, you know, I know that's a little early, but so I'm wondering, when do we need to make a decision by on what to do? Were you planning for us to make a decision today?
No.
No.
I would rather get the quote and everything from Electech.
Oh, of course, duh, yeah.
Yeah. Because that's going to be the biggest factor.
Now, I guess what I'm wondering is if we, and I don't know that this is the case, but if we decide we don't want to do vote by mail and prefer just absentee, then you don't need to go to Electech, right?
That's correct. Because Electech already provides all the ballots, including for absentee ballots. So all I do is, I mean, they already send them to me. They send me the envelopes, everything we need for the absentee ballots. So that's all already included in our price. So the vote by mail would be another service that they'd be providing, and that's where the cost factor comes in.
Yeah.
And is there, and I may be off base here, I'm still thinking about it by myself,
Okay.
myself, but is there a consensus on the board that we don't want vote by mail this time? Or am I reading everybody wrong?
No, I feel that way.
Not sure.
Not
Yeah.
sure. Okay, then we don't need to make it. Yeah, if we're still, I didn't know if Mary Louise, do you have a gut instinct? I'm just
I'm like
curious.
Wendy. I'm not sure. You know, with this
Yeah.
COVID thing, I'm just not sure at this point.
Okay.
But
Yeah, I wasn't
still
sure.
feel like if we do vote by mail, I still think we have to be at the polling place and have the machine.
Mm.
Because
And you know
you're
what
going to have a lot of people upset.
Mhm.
Oh
You-
yes, especially your older folks, because they can't do all this
Right.
tech stuff and go onto a computer and request this or that, and there's a lot they can't do, and they enjoy coming in every time there's an election due vote in place.
Yes.
All I know is when I did early voting this year and we had to mail in, I was amazed how busy it was.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
Oh,
Everybody wanted to come in and
Yeah.
actually do the machine. So that's
Yeah.
why I'm not sure.
Would you like
Okay,
me to
no,
go
that's
ahead
fine.
then?
I'm actually, I wanted to hear perspectives. So I think, you know, what concerns me is actually the one thing about the election day that, you know, it's a very, very long day, right? I mean, what time do we start? 5:30, 6:30? I can't even remember.
Mhm.
And, you know, I don't think I was home till 10 p.m. at the
Right.
earliest, because, you know, we went through all the thing, then we did the option, then we, you know, went to the city council. It's a long day. And if we're going to ask people to do this twice, right? Because we would need one day for people to go through however many ballots there are, and then we'd need another day for them to actually be. We're asking a lot of people, and that's why I'm still thinking that part through.
Yeah.
Mhm. Well, just counting absentee ballots is one thing, but all the mail-in votes would be another thing.
Mhm. Which is
Yeah,
why.
the
we probably
absentee
do the
might
same day.
Yeah, that's not bad.
Mm.
Well, I am still leaning towards not doing mail-in.
Well, and I will say, like, so when we had having the electronic voting machines in comparison to what we used to have, that definitely I felt, and correct me if I'm wrong, I feel like it cut down on time with counting the votes, because he literally was able to just pull out what the
That's true.
top, votes were, and then we added our absentee ballots from there, and it felt like no time at all compared to what we had before. Now I know this year will be different, but I'm just saying those who come in and they're electronically voting, and him being able to pull those numbers as fast as he did compared to before. Before we had those real big sheets, and
Yeah. Yep.
it was like we were planning something with everything scattered across the desk and trying to go through to look at all the numbers. So it definitely came a long way last year in comparison to that. So
Quite different.
yeah. So I mean, there is that too.
Hey, Shannon, I'm sorry, maybe you can, when you go to common council, maybe you can ask their view, see what they think.
Yeah, I can do that. I can absolutely do that. We have a meeting Monday night. So, and I plan to, make a report and everything on what we have discussed and share with them where we're at with things. So
You still do Zoom. You still do Zoom with the city council, right? Yeah.
Yes. Yep.
Well, a lot to think about.
Yeah.
It is. I know. It really is. So, but I mean, I could, like I said, I can go and move forward. I can actually shoot Electech a email today and just say, can we get a quote on this just to see like how much it would be? Well, I would have to reach out to Paula, the board first, because I have a feeling they're going to want to know how many voters we have before I take that route. So,
yeah, I think the council would want to know all that. Do they have to give approval for that? Or is it just us?
they probably would, because so we could bring forward a recommendation to them, but depending on the cost of it, they may have to approve it. It would depend on the cost, because there is a limitation there. Now the other thing is too is they would then later on, if we decide to proceed with it and we have to pull the funding from somewhere else in the budget, we would have to amend the budget to include these funds. So they would have to vote on that, because that's done by ordinance. So with the budget amendments. So, but yeah, so I can move forward with that, just so we have a little bit more to go on, just to see where it's at. Because even if we don't do it this year, but we want to consider it in the future, depending on how everything goes.
Right.
Because we don't know what next year holds either, or not next year, but the year following may hold either. So we could certainly look into it, just so we know.
Yeah, it's just my concern this year, just because of COVID. That's,
Right.
Oh,
and I just think if you have mail-in, you would get way more votes.
yeah.
We would.
So I don't know, it's like one or the other.
So why don't I start with that? Why don't I start with reaching out to Paula from the Carroll County Board of Elections,
Drexel.
and move on to Electech. And then that way we at least have the numbers in front of us.
Well, when you talk to Paula too, ask her about if we can get a poll book, if she'll let us borrow one, or maybe even a mailbox.
Yeah.
I don't know if they got them from the Maryland state or they have some. I don't know.
Right. Yep. No, I'll ask her.
Okay.
Would those, it wouldn't be able to work that way. Never mind. I was going to say, no, never mind.
Sure.
Yeah, it was a hypothetical, but then I realized, no, it won't work. So I thought I had a brilliant idea, but I don't.
Sounded good. So is that it for that part?
Yep, that's all I
Okay.
have.
Okay, so unfinished business. I do have a question, Shannon.
Sure.
Did you find out anything at all about the location with John Street quarters? Like if there's another place or anything?
So I have talked to the city administrator. I also talked to the Recreation and Parks Director, Abby Gruber, because we started to maybe consider the gym, but then we were worried about maybe possibly the handicap access might be an issue. So then we thought maybe about City Hall, because if someone walked through City Hall, they could come in through the front door and then exit the back. But I want to go over and look at that myself, because I can't remember how that back part is or the back porch is set up. I'm pretty sure there's a handicap access, but I can't remember for sure.
There's a lot of steps in the front of
That's
City.
what I was gonna say.
Right. Right,
Yeah.
but they
Lot of
redid the
steps.
porch, but I can't remember if they actually added like a handicap part to the
Maybe
back
on the
front of
side,
porch,
yeah.
Right, I can't remember offhand, so I'm gonna go over and check it out myself.
Yeah, I don't
Um,
recall seeing one, but it might be there, but
Yeah,
Okay.
and I feel like they didn't, but the other thought was that I had discussion with staff members during our department meeting the other day, was maybe those who do have do need the handicap access, that we just we make sure people stay a certain distance from the door of the building, which we were going to reassure anyways, because we want to make sure everybody keeps their 6 foot distance, but that those people can then exit out through the front of the building, or I guess it'd be technically the back of the building, back out to where they came in, if that is a problem. But we could do it right down there on the first floor. So, definitely a couple options there.
Yeah.
I
Go ahead,
did
Mike.
one thought, when you mentioned the gym, I don't know about all of you, but I hate parking in there. Like,
Yeah, that can be pretty hectic too, especially if you have some classes
parking
going
places.
on. Yep.
Yeah, and City Hall, it can be tricky to park there if there's a lot of people, and if we're thinking about anybody with a need of a crutches or a wheelchair or something, it's a little hilly too. I mean, the parking there might be a little challenge. Just a thought. Yeah.
Well, what we could maybe do is maybe we could have the streets department put in just temporary handicap spots for that day,
Right.
maybe.
Well,
But wouldn't we have to also, if we did it at the City Hall, we'd have to allow certain people to enter and exit at the same spot, right? We wouldn't want somebody like with a walker to come in and then out the back and then all the way around.
Correct. So what I was thinking was those who do not need the handicap access, those people could walk straight out the back.
That's what you meant before by,
Right.
okay, I got you now. Yep,
But
yep.
if they do need to use the front door to go back out,
We'll have to hold everybody.
Walker, whatever,
Yeah.
then we could just make sure people stay back a certain distance so that they can easily walk back out.
Yeah.
now, could someone talk to the John Street facility to see if they could make an exception for one day for us?
I am going to reach back out to them as well.
Because that's the ideal place.
Mhm.
It's always been there.
Yeah, I am
They
going to
may be open by then anyway, but if they're not, maybe they would allow us to use one day.
Right. Yeah, I am going
Who has
Yeah.
jurisdiction over that? The fire
Yeah,
department?
Mary Louise, who does?
Mary Louise?
fire department, yes. Danny Plunkard is president.
right.
So that's probably who you've been talking to, Shannon?
Ashley is not. I've been talking to, I think she's like an administrative assistant.
Patty Corbin
It's either Patty.
or Jenny White?
Yeah, Jenny White.
Jenny White. Okay, she's the administrative assistant.
Okay. Yeah, so yeah, I'll definitely reach out. Maybe what I'll do is I'll include Danny Plunkard in the email when I send it back over with that request.
Yes, I would.
Discuss it. But yeah, but those were the discussions so far. I haven't had a whole lot of time to pull that through, or to really explore it. But the little bit I was able to talk to other staff members and get some feedback on that, that's what I got. So also to the community building, I didn't think about, but Abby, she did share with me, there is a back exit as well. It would put them out near where you would come out for the concession stand.
By the pool?
So anyone that needs any kind of, handicap accessibility or anything like that cannot go out that area, because she said it could be a little dangerous with where you step out onto. But anyone who does not need those accessibilities, they could easily walk right out those if we want to keep the circulation going, so we can try to keep the line separated, as well as people coming out and keeping everyone safe.
And they do have a nice ramp there.
They do.
Yeah.
So that is another thing that I did discuss with them as well.
Any other matters?
Well, there's one thing going back to the closed session minutes. You had listed some people who were prospective judges, and one of them, their name's spelled wrong.
Okay, I'll take care of it.
Jean.
Yeah, well,
It's
yeah.
Party.
An email.
It's
You can't say it,
Closed.
Sue.
Closed session.
Yeah, close
That was
that.
closed session, Sue.
You
You
can
can't
send
say
me-
that.
Why don't you just send me an email? You can
Okay,
send me an email and I'll change it.
I will.
Thank you.
Okay, well, if nothing else.
Actually, I have one other thing, and
Go
I was
for it.
thinking about it. I've been thinking about this for a while, and if I don't know if this is new business or old business, I really did like those voting machines that we used last time, because it was simply open it up and had the numbers. But the one downside is it didn't leave a paper trail, like per voter. Have we ever had a situation in Westminster where we would have needed a recount? Because the complaint that people make is, the machine mess, that unfortunately, if they ever ask for a recount, the better way to do it is to actually have all the ballots that have been scanned. And those machines didn't leave a paper trail.
But they did, I thought, at the
Yeah.
end.
Did they
We
have
voted up. There
a
was a big
little-
long
They have a
paper.
way of, they do have a way of checking things and have the paper trail.
Did it have, Wendy, did it have the little marks for each one? And so it was just the bottom that was the total? It did. I'm sorry. Okay. I forgot
think it
that.
was. I'll double check on that. I think it was, though. I think I actually have those tapes in my
So
office.
You do? Okay. So you actually technically could go back through and count. I mean, count it by hand if someone claimed there was a problem.
Well,
Yeah,
and
I
we do that.
remember.
These were audited.
Oh,
So
right.
they do need to be audited. And see, the other thing is too that you got to remember. So we have our voter registration books.
Yes.
So what they do with that is they, I'm sorry, hold on 1 second.
It's fine. Let her look.
She's looking for a math book.
That's
So at least I know she's doing work. So when I return those voter registration books back to, oh my gosh, I'm getting everybody screwed up now. Back to the Carroll County Board of Elections. So not only do we have what Electech has provided and has done on their end, and they have their paperwork, but then we take our voter registration books back over to Carroll County Board of Elections. I dropped all of them off. They do their edits and they compare it to the numbers that we got to make sure that we were right on.
Oh, so the number of voters equals the, okay, yeah,
Yes.
okay, that would,
Yeah.
yeah. Okay,
So
thank you.
that's how we do it. So we're being double checked.
Okay,
So not only you guys doing your parts, but then, you know, Carroll County is also doing, it's an audit basically. And they're doing their part and they're going through and making sure that their counts add up to what our counts were on the tapes that he provides.
okay, thank you.
So we are double checked on that.
Thanks.
Sure.
All right, that was all, Wendy.
Anything else? Okay, well, I now adjourn the meeting.